Making sure everything works.
Alright, you're live.
I'm live?
Yeah.
Hey guys, what's
Hi.
up? Finally, we are here to do...
Sorry.
Well done. Welcome to Pop Culture Critics. This is our first live stream on YouTube. Very exciting. With me today, I have TheRoboSamurai, otherwise aka Jaren,
Hello.
with us again. And as I promised you guys, we're going to be doing the Star Wars movie review. And it's going to be a review, but it's also going to be a discussion for you guys as well. It'll be open to everything and whatnot. So with that said, let's get started. So we're going to do the first three movies. We're going to discuss the first three movies and explain the story. We're going to explain the characters, the openings, the talent / the actors, the scripts, visuals, our overall for every single movie. So don't forget to join on the chat if you're watching. If you have any questions for us, if you have an opinion or anything, definitely let us know. We're more than happy to look at those. So with that said, let's finally get started. Episode 1 is where we're going to be starting. The Phantom Menace. It was directed by George Lucas, obviously, and is about, quote unquote, it's about two things.
That's a really hard thing to pinpoint.
It really is. It's about the story of Anakin as a boy, basically growing up, not really growing up, but seeing him go from a slave into the Jedi Court, while at the same time you get a view of everything going on with the Republic and trying to figure out who the Sith is at this time, as well as trying to basically keep the peace in order because the Trade Federation is trying to wreck everything in their plans.
As you can tell, it's very kind of disjointed and it's very unclear on what the story wanted.
Yeah, it really is. And again, that might go back to maybe a mix of George Lucas's directing with this movie as well as some of the writing with trying to figure out where they were, where they are as a franchise. Because originally they did 4, 5, and 6 as the technical first ones, and then they went back and did 1, 2, and 3. But it's in a newer era where, you know, as you can clearly tell if you've seen the movie, CGI is a new thing, and they loved using it.
They really wanted to use that CGI.
Yeah, so it was probably a mix of that as well. So, as a lot of people know, with Star Wars, we're just going to start at the beginning. With Star Wars openings, there's the little pan where the crawl, yeah, where
they play the theme, then you get a little. It's not even a narration; it's a bunch of reading that you have to do.
It's a couple paragraphs
of the world, yeah.
And so you have to read those technically in order to understand what's going on, I guess, in the movie. Me personally, knowing in the first first three movies, 4, 5, and 6, the first three.
The original three.
The original three, yes. They had to add those in because of the fact that you don't really know much about the world. You don't really know about what's going on.
Right. And for a time, for sci-fi films, like in the 70s when Star Wars came out, that was kind of the norm to kind of do your world building through that kind of narration. Yeah. So at the time, that was fine. But then George Lucas didn't get the memo in '99, and he's like, nah, I'm going to keep it. Yeah, exactly. And so, me personally, again, with these first few movies... or the first three is what I should say. They have that crawl still, but you don't really need it because, oddly enough, no surprise here, they explain everything in the movie as it's going. They explain to you, hey, this is what's happening with our Republic, I guess you could say, or our And you see, that kind of brings up the first major issue with the Phantom Menace is they repeat a lot.
They do repeat a lot. Whether it's
in the first scene, they literally explained everything that was going on in the crowd. It's like, okay, we literally just read this. Yeah, and not only is it just repeating with that stuff, it's also repeating in like dialogue, or there's a moment where Qui-Gon, who's played by Liam Neeson, is talking about how, spoiler alert if you haven't seen it for whatever, he frees Anakin from being a slave, but he couldn't take his mom. And then Anakin literally asks, what about my mom? And it's like, they just mentioned that. Right, it's like, did you not just listen to the old man right here?
Yeah. But we're getting ahead of ourselves on that. So, obviously we just talked about the opening. The story itself was a bit...
unfocused.
Yes, it was unfocused, and it wasn't necessarily combined together like it should have been.
Yeah.
There was a lot of stuff where they were bouncing around back and forth between several subplots. It didn't really seem like they knew where they were going with the movie and with the plots themselves.
I mean, the amount of subplots that were in here kind of bordered on the line of like Kingsglaive.
Exactly.
Which isn't good.
Yeah. And so there was that, and just with the many subplots that were going on, even the subplots themselves, they didn't really seem to know what they were doing, because not only were they trying to tell their own story, but they were trying to tell separate stories as well.
And again, it kind of goes back, Lucas didn't know what he wanted.
Exactly.
He had all these great ideas, but he couldn't fit them all in one movie, so he just crammed them, which doesn't work.
So that's pretty much our intake on the story for this. Now we're going to go ahead and talk about the characters. I'll let you start that off, because I know you've got some prejudice with the actor of Anakin as well as some of the others.
Anakin bothered me.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the thing with Anakin. Like, you even mentioned it too, is he's so enthusiastic, but he doesn't show it.
Exactly.
His face is so blank and bland, yet he's so excited.
Yeah. Like, you can definitely tell that in his voice he was very excited for this role, because he sounded like he was in this. He was definitely I feel he could be a very great voice actor, but as for being on the screen itself, he just didn't seem like he was.
And honestly, I don't really blame him all too much, because when you think about it, majority of Phantom Menace is green screen.
Yeah.
And this is a child actor who's just entering the industry, so he has no idea what he's dealing with.
Exactly. I mean, you talked about this earlier, how when it comes to a lot of acting on green screens, it's very hard to stay in character, because you don't get that real feel of the locations, of everything really going on, because you're so focused around all this green screen that is going on.
Right.
And so, because of that, it's very hard to stay in character, which is no surprise.
Right. I think even Ewan McGregor, the guy who plays Obi-Wan, while he loves the character, he hated filming those movies because there was so much blue and green screen he had to deal with. And there was not enough on-set locations.
Yeah, exactly.
And I was also saying that a lot of the Naboo scenes, that could have easily been shot in, like, Italy or something.
Oh, definitely.
Like,
Naboo
just with,
wonderful.
like, some, like, green towers just to get the really big landmarks. They could have just shot it in Italy.
Oh, yeah, definitely. If you don't know, if you've never seen the movies and you don't know what we're talking about for, like, planets or whatever, just, if you look them up, you'll probably see them, or if you want to watch the movies, you'll definitely see them in the movies.
Go watch the movies. Well, start with the originals.
Yeah, start with the originals, then work your way. Regardless, I mean, they're decent in their own ways.
Yeah, see,
except for 1 and 2, which 2 we'll get to.
We'll get to, like, I have some thoughts about the overall prequel trilogy, and we'll get into that later.
Oh yeah, we'll get way into that later. But again, back with the talent and the acting, I felt that they had good choice of roles. They had good talent and good actors for the portrayal of the characters. But again, it's because of the locations and the set that they were on that really affected how the acting was throughout this movie. And with that said, I want to talk about the script for this movie, because the script for this movie, one, it just seemed scattered and nothing really seemed to have made sense.
It seems like no one gave it a second read. Like, it was the first draft Lucas wrote, and he sent it, and he's like, yeah, no, this is the shooting script.
This is fine. This is fine. And then as he comes to realize, it's like, well, maybe this wasn't so fine.
Right.
By then, it was too late. We got episode 1.
And I have to say, like, George Lucas, he's not the best director out there. Like, he's an amazing... Okay, I don't want to say amazing storyteller. He's a decent storyteller, but he's an amazing world builder.
Yes.
He can build worlds like no tomorrow. He's really good at that. And
oh, yeah.
So I think that was kind of the main problem, is when he was asked to direct all these, he didn't really know how.
Yeah. I mean, he did his directing with the first 3. I'm going to keep saying the first 3.
He only directed A New Hope. After A New Hope, someone else took it over.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So...
the more you know.
I mean, he wrote 4, 5, and 6, but he only directed 4.
Oh.
And then he came on to direct these 3.
Anyways, but I was going to say something about the script. Oh, yeah. The dialogue with the script, it seemed like it will... Not only was it just felt... Oh, my word. Not only did it feel like it was pushed I feel, some of the dialogue, but it seemed, again, that the script itself wasn't where it wanted to be, mainly with the story of it, the way the characters had to be portrayed, I guess some of the enthusiasm with some of the speech, and that could have also been with the
enthusiasm.
Again, yeah, it could have been also with due to the acting of the people as well.
I'm a huge fan of Qui-Gon Jinn, and I like his character, but
played by Liam Neeson. Yeah,
played by Liam Neeson, because when I found that out, I'm like, oh my god, Liam Neeson, that's awesome. But
super young Liam Neeson.
Yeah, but he was bland.
Mm-hmm.
He brought nothing to the table.
He didn't seem like he was very enthused, which is ironic because when I actually read an article on this a while ago, like quite some time ago, he was actually very excited to play the role of Qui-Gon.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, when he found, like, he wanted to play the role of Qui-Gon really badly, and so when he found out he got the role, he was very happy, but it just seemed like he wasn't as... You couldn't really tell about it through his character. Right. He seemed too bland as his character.
And I don't think that's Neeson's fault. I think that's more the script's fault and the poor directing.
Yeah, that could also be it. So, let's talk about the elephant in the room. The visuals of this movie.
Some of them are good.
I'll start off with this by saying that very few of them were good. The rest was very bad.
Like, you can tell this was or not even early 90s, but like 90s CGI.
It was when CGI was just starting to become a thing, and they were like, let's put it in everything.
Because everyone else is doing it.
Yeah, exactly. And while I know that the visuals could have been better, in every other Star Wars movie, they are actually very well done. But it just, in this movie, everything just seemed off.
And it's really distracting, too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, everything looks so fake.
Yeah.
That it's just like, okay, can you just get this out of here, please?
Well, I mean, the makeup and the costume designs, though, kind of a part of the visuals. But they were actually pretty well done because they have to just, they have to show as...
Like the makeup they used for the Queen, I actually really like the makeup.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that was done really well.
Yeah, but a lot of the visuals, it just... You could tell that this was 90s CGI, where everything was so focused hard on, hey,
and I was even telling you during the movie that, like, movies that were coming out around the same time, like the first Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, those didn't rely too heavily on CGI, but their CGI was still better.
Yeah.
Like, especially Lord of the Rings, like with Gollum, like, oh my god.
Oh, yeah.
And this movie doesn't even compare. Like, this CGI was really bad.
It was really bad. So, I can't really think much more to say about this movie. Can you think of
the only thing that I really, really like about this movie is the Darth Maul fight.
The Darth Maul fight, we were discussing this earlier, would have been much better, and I feel that not the first three, but episodes 1 through 3 could have been better if Darth Maul had actually stayed alive.
Oh, yeah. Like, while we think Dooku's a cool character, and we'll get to him in a minute, but... Darth Maul could have replaced him, and I feel that would have made a stronger villain for either just episode 2 or just even episode 3 as well.
Oh, definitely, without a doubt. So, for the overall grade, what would you give it? Because I feel I already know what I'd give this.
I'd give it like a C-.
I'd say about the same. About a C, C-. So overall, for Star Wars The Phantom Menace, we're going to give this movie a C-. While it was obviously a movie that reintroduced Star Wars to the younger, I guess, newer era of people at the time, nowadays and even then, it just isn't as strong as it wanted to have been or should have been.
Right.
So that's it for the first movie. Let's talk about Star Wars Attack of the Clones.
Okay, here we go.
Hold that thought.
You good?
Yeah.
Lucas, here's a message to you. Take Romance Writing 101.
Well, hold that thought. Star Wars Attack of the Clones, again directed by George Lucas. It's 10 years later from The Phantom Menace. It takes 10 years after.
Yeah. After the events of Phantom Menace, 10 years later.
Yeah. Words were not coming out of my mouth correctly. So, it takes place 10 years later, and obviously Anakin is now a Padawan. For those who don't know, Star Wars thing, Padawan is basically a younger apprentice kind of person. They're learning the ways of everything.
They're not yet a Jedi Knight.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, he thinks he's a Jedi Knight, but...
Yeah. So there's that, and then he's also madly in love with Padme, and then they fall in love together.
It was cringy and awkward.
And then there's attacks of clones, and yeah.
I mean, to the movie's credit, it was more focused this time.
Was it?
I mean, not significantly, but it actually had things that connected to each other. It wasn't disjointed and all over the place. It still was, but
did not. This movie, I don't have words for this movie. I mean, I have words for this movie. I don't want to say them, but oh my god.
See, this is what I wanted to talk about. Phantom Menace was shaky. It was a shaky start.
Mm-hmm.
They just took the wrong path. And they just needed to recover from that. Episode 2 just went downhill.
Episode 2 did not give it that.
No, it didn't.
You
could have redeemed yourself from Episode 1, but you didn't. You made Episode 2, and you done goofed.
Yeah. I mean, while we're talking about the story of this movie, or then again, what story of this movie? It was a horrible, horrible love story. It
was very forced.
It was.
No pun intended. Sorry.
The story for this, while it was forced, horrible pun, it just seemed like, even though it was a bit more collaborated and more focused on the main point going on, it still lacked a lot of stuff that could have told the story better, as well as trying to put in that subplot again of, I guess you could say, of Anakin and Padme having their whatever the hell they are, couple love therapy session thing, whatever. I feel that was
I mean, it's clear Lucas didn't know how to write romance.
It was definitely unnecessary for this movie to an extent.
I mean, having romance in a thing is in a thing. Having romance in a movie is good, but you need to do it well.
You need to know how to write romance in order to do romance.
Right. Oh, yeah. Hi, Kit. I just
Yep, Kisune Gaming says, "Hey guys, hello.
Hey.
Welcome to the live stream.
Thanks for joining in."
Yes, thank you very much. So, now that we attempted the story, we attempted it better than George Lucas did. We'll go to the characters. Hayden Christensen, yes, I said his name right.
Yep, you got it.
Hayden Christensen plays Anakin in this movie, and he... Pardon the French for the younger ears that will be watching this later. He's a whiny little bitch. That's about it. He's a whiny little bitch.
I mean, that's the best way to sum him up, honestly.
Yeah,
he whines, he complains.
He wants all this power. He wants Padme, and
he wants everything.
He wants everything. Imagine like a little 4-year-old in Toys R Us. Or wait, that's not relevant in today's day and age. Not very many people know Toys R Us. Imagine a 13-year-old in a GameStop, because that's more relevant.
There you go.
And they
literally just have that stack, and he's like, "I want all of it. I want
they want all these games, but they can't get all the games, or they want the newest system, and they can't get all the newest system.
Right.
And so they whine about it, they complain about it. That's Anakin in this movie.
Yep.
Because Hayden Christensen, he portrays Anakin in Episode 3 much better.
Oh yeah,
much better.
Like you can't even tell the difference.
Yeah, but in this movie, he's just this whiny, irritating person who just...
He doesn't shut up.
He doesn't shut up, and he's just... Ewan McGregor, though, is back in this movie, and he's
actually in this movie.
Yeah. He was much better in this movie than he was in the first movie. The first movie, he didn't really have that much screen time, per se.
Mean, now that I'm thinking back on it, everyone in Episode 1 was bland. Didn't bring anything to the table. Yeah. Nothing was unique about them.
Episode 1, if you... You could probably watch Star Wars without watching Episode 1.
Yeah.
The only reason you want to watch it is for the Darth Maul fight scene. That's about it. But
which is a badass fight scene.
If you want to watch that fight scene, just look it up on YouTube. Yeah. Everything's on YouTube. Just look it up. You don't need to watch the rest of the movie just for that. Just watch that one scene. You're good.
Right.
But you could literally just watch the entire Star Wars movies without watching Episode 1. It's absolutely pointless. I say you could watch them all without Episode 2, but Episode 2 is actually very important in order to understand the rest.
Yeah.
Aside from the whole Anakin Padme, I almost said like anime, like combine the two.
Yeah, because this movie also goes into detail about the Clone Troopers and the Clone Wars, which is actually referenced in Episode 4.
Yes.
And so that's where we're going back to. That's where we're at.
Yeah, and they actually have a whole TV show on Clone Wars,
which is okay, minus the first 2 seasons. Amazing show.
Well, if you want to be technical about it, they did have the movie, which came out, which...
We don't talk about the movie.
Oh, yeah, that movie doesn't exist. It exists. There's that movie. Then there's also the miniseries, which was made by the same people that did Samurai Jack.
Oh, that's right!
Which is a very, very miniseries. It's like 2 seasons, barely.
No, I think it's 2 hour-long episodes.
That's right. Well, the reason being is because it was a miniseries.
Yeah.
So they had a... Yeah. But... You could watch that and understand the Clone Wars, or you could watch the new CGI'd, stronger CGI'd version of the Clone Wars, which is actually, it's still pretty good.
It is good. Like, because honestly, when people talk about their favorite eras, I personally love the Clone War eras, which is why I'm mad that these movies didn't do as well, because the era gives so much background and lore about the Jedi and goes into more detail, which is amazing.
Oh, yeah.
And Clone Wars does a really good job of like embellishing that.
Yeah, definitely. Since we went backwards, that was more story stuff. But hey, you know what? It's a discussion. It doesn't matter. We're just discussing the movie itself, our thoughts on it, and whatnot. That's basically what a review is. And yeah, but I do want to shift back over to the characters because again, Ewan McGregor, he was in this movie. He did much better job in this movie as Obi-Wan Kenobi, Anakin's master / friend person. He played the role of Obi-Wan much better. He was more lighthearted. He had a lot more screen time. He was more of a person in this movie.
And he had more to do.
He had a lot more to do.
Rather than just standing around in a ship.
Yeah.
In the first one.
Yeah, pretty much. Let's talk about, obviously we're talking about the characters. We're talking about the actors for this movie. Christopher Lee played Count Dooku in this movie, who is one of the main villains.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a villain. Because why not?
And honestly, they took a really interesting approach with him, because rather than, like, with Darth Maul, who was more combat heavy,
he was more political heavy.
Yeah, which honestly worked.
It worked much better, and we talked about this, and we felt like we were saying how they should have kept Count Dooku in here, definitely, but keep him more political.
Oh, okay, that's what I meant. My bad. Sorry. Continue.
But they should have left Darth Maul in the movie longer.
Yes.
Rather than, spoiler alert, killing him off in the first movie. Keep him in the second movie to have more of a collaboration with
Because, you can have both sides. You can have the political side of Dooku, and then the, like, I want to go kill these guys side of Darth Maul on the same side. And honestly, that would have made a much better, conflict. There we go.
Nailed it.
It would make for much better conflict within the movie.
Yeah. But, like I said, Christopher Lee was in this movie. He played Count Dooku. He did an amazing job as him. And
I think out of most of the actors that were chosen, he actually did one of the best jobs.
Oh, definitely, without a doubt. And he also was probably one of the better swordsmen, or lightsaber swordsmen in this movie because he has a fencing background.
Yeah,
fencing's awesome.
he used to fence.
I don't care who you are. Fencing's awesome.
Fencing is amazing.
Fencing is awesome.
And
I was in fencing.
And it brings a unique lightsaber style to the sword fights.
Oh, definitely.
Like, you can tell with some of the fights that they use stunt doubles. Like, I think Ewan and Hayden have stunt doubles for their combat. I don't think Christopher Lee does, because he knows how to fight with a sword.
I'm trying to think who else had stunt doubles. I don't remember. Oh yeah, also in this movie we get introduced to Jango Fett, a bounty hunter, who is the original person that created the clones. He has his own game called Star Wars Bounty Hunter that came out freaking 2002?
Sounds about right.
2002, 2004? Came out a long time ago.
Yeah.
It was a very fun game, and it actually takes place right before Episode 2. I wish that... I can't... he had screen time, yes, and he had a character development to an extent. I just wish that spoiler alert, didn't die in this movie.
Yeah.
He's such a badass character. They shouldn't have killed him off.
See, I'm gonna piss off a lot of fanboys right now. Vets don't do a lot. I'm sorry. Like, I know I'm pissing off a lot of people.
Yeah.
But vets need to get better.
Yeah.
They need to get better at their job.
Well, I mean, there is the theory / I think it's a novel where Boba Fett actually climbs out of the Sarlacc.
Yeah, but that's not canon anymore.
Oh. Sucks for you, but
like, what is it with vets and losing their jetpacks?
Dude,
like every single time.
I'm talking about this also earlier. We were talking about the game when in one of the scenes, Jango Fett loses his jetpack in the fight with Obi-Wan, and I was telling him how he happens to lose it so much. He loses it twice in the movie, and he
3 times because remember it broke when he was fighting Mace Windu.
That is the second time.
You're right. You're right.
He lost it twice in the movie, and then he actually lost it in the game. At literally the very beginning of the game. And it takes you freaking forever to get that thing back. Like, by the time you're halfway through the game, you get your jetpack back by then, it's like, oh my god. Yes, I still remember that game. I love that game. So yeah, now that we kind of talked about the characters, the actors, and all of that, to an extent, to the most part, let's talk about
one thing, before we move on, we also need to talk about is the heavy CGI used for the clone troopers.
We'll get to that.
Oh, we're getting that?
We're getting to that soon. I want to talk about the script. Yeah.
Alright.
Let's start off by asking a question. What script?
There was no script.
Dear writers for this movie, get good. Get better. Don't, pardon my French. Little ears, pardon my French. Don't fuck this up.
And like I said at the beginning, Lucas, take a romance writing class.
Yes.
For the love of God.
The script was actually... We're going to split this off into 2 sections. Okay. We're going to split it off into the Anakin Padme script set, which is going to go way into the garbage can. Into the garbage can is where it's going. We'll get to there. Well, we're going to talk about the main script of the story itself, which is the whole... the Trade Federation versus the Senate. Sounds about right.
Republic.
The Republic, thank you. The Trade Federation versus the Republic, and the actors of it, the Jedi, Count Dooku, the rest of the people. Their scripts and the story written around the script is actually very well done. They seem to...
They fixed the political problem that they had in the first one, where the politics didn't really make much sense. Yeah, they fixed that here.
They definitely did. They fixed
all that.
And they
put more care into that.
And they also put a lot more care into their characters and how their dialogue should be portrayed, as well as adding... back to the acting, as well as adding Mace Windu once again into this movie, and actually gave him more of a reason to be in this movie rather than the first one. He plays Mace Windu. Not sound racist, he's the only black guy in this movie. You'll recognize him immediately. He's also the only guy with a purple lightsaber.
That's because Sam Jackson personally
demanded
from Lucas that he gets a purple one.
Yeah. My man!
Because no one argues with Sam Jackson.
Because he's Sam Jackson.
Exactly.
Sam Jackson, you don't argue with that guy. He'll send Ryan Reynolds after your ass. Go Hitman's Bodyguard all over you. But they added a lot more reason to care about the characters and about the story with the script that they added for this. Now, we pull out the garbage can. Anakin and Padme.
This was not done well. This was done horribly.
This script, I swear George Lucas was on ecstasy or something when he wrote this script, or whoever wrote this script part or whatever. Because Anakin, Hayden Christensen, in his part of the script, while he's talking to Padme, pardon my French again, little ears, is a fucking pedophile.
Yeah.
He
many rape faces.
So many rape faces, so many horrible lines, so many rape
lines. The lines were very... I'm not even going to say cheesy. They were cringy and awkward.
They were horrible. Imagine the worst romance movie you've ever seen, and then watch Star Wars 2.
Yeah.
And then tell me which one's worse. I dare you. I double dare you. I challenge you to do that. Because again,
I can probably guarantee you that episode 2 is still worse.
Exactly.
The worst kind of fan fiction.
Exactly. The fan fiction.
like romance fan fiction.
Oh yeah, without doubt. Yeah, Hayden Christensen he had creeper face the entire time, and his dialogue was just so cringy. And same with Padme. Padme's lines, Padme played by Natalie Portman, did a much better job with her lines when she wasn't with Anakin, or when she wasn't so focused on Anakin.
Yeah.
When she was doing her political side, her dialogue was perfect. She played the perfect part for it. Like, everything was really good for her on that. But then when she got to the part where she's like talking to Anakin, you have to get the line of, "I truly, deeply love you."
But let's not forget the best line, sand.
It's rough, it's coarse and rough, and it gets everywhere. The lines are, you can remember lines when they're so horrible.
Yeah.
When the lines are so horrible, they're stuck in your head. And I'll get to another horrible line that if two of my friends are going to end up watching this, once I get to that line, they'll know exactly what I'm talking about and they will laugh. But we're getting to that now. That's coming up soon. But again, with Hayden Christensen and Natalie Portman, when they were talking with each other,
there wasn't any chemistry between them.
There wasn't. It just, now that I think about it, with the script of this part, when it came to their time on Naboo, another planet, because spoilers?
I think
not really.
You're good.
There's so much that goes on with them, because it goes from a moment of like, we can't love each other, to, oh, we're gonna mess around and horseplay and probably bang in the fields, and it probably happened. Let's be honest here.
Yeah.
And they just keep bouncing back and forth of like, oh, I love you, oh, we can't do this, I love you, but I can't do this, I love you, we can't do this. There's a lot of that bouncing around in this movie, and the script itself, and with the acting, and there's just no chemistry with it, because there's no specific reason. There's nothing that gives them the reason to love each other, other than the fact that honestly, I've been thinking about you in my dreams. And yeah, what were you saying?
I was saying one of the scripts I found most interesting was the thing with Obi-Wan and his investigation on Jango Fett.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked that. That was really cool. And then it kept I kept losing interest because it kept going back to the Anakin and Padme thing.
Maybe that's how they create anime.
Let's not go there.
We won't go there then.
But yeah, like I enjoyed the Obi-Wan stuff, but then when Anakin and Padme's things came on, I'm like, great, I gotta sit through this.
Mm-hmm.
Then Obi-Wan come back and I'm already disinterested. I'm like, well, okay, cool.
And then by the time you regain your interest, it's like, I already lost interest. And then you actually start giving a damn about that. And it's like, well, yeah, I guess I could keep interest for a little while longer. And it's weird because by that time, it goes right back to the other scene. You're like, well, I just lost interest again.
Yeah, because when they cut back to Anakin and Padme, it's just like for a beat. And then it's back. And it's like, wait, what was the point in just, okay, thank you.
Now, the script for the final, I'm going to say half hour, give or take. 20 minutes to half hour. The last half hour of the movie was really good because there's a huge fight scene between all the Jedi and all the droids and these 3 giant monsters, and it's just awesome. And then they're flying.
The clones come in.
Then the clones come in, then they fly over to where Count Dooku is, and there's droids flying everywhere. And they're having a giant fight, and then the big final fight between Count Dooku, Obi-Wan, and Anakin goes on. Anakin loses his hand, spoiler alert. All of that was really good. And the way that not only the cinematography of it and the directing of that, to an extent, it was all very good. Now, I say to an extent for the directing because there's one sequence, I guess you could say, where Anakin and Dooku are fighting, and the lights are kind of flashing around.
Oh, yeah.
And it just shows shots of their face and these lightsabers swinging around. And it's supposed to be as if, like, they're fighting, but you clearly tell that their swords aren't even hitting each other, and they're just kind of like...
Yeah,
they aren't moving. Their arm is doing all the moving.
Yeah.
And it's just... those shots in particular
It's
were
like
horrible.
Christopher Lee was trying to improvise with the combat with Hayden Christensen's poor swordsmanship.
Yeah, that's probably what it was. I swear to
yeah.
God, that's probably what it was. Now, the visuals in this movie were actually much better, and now we can talk about the visuals with the clone troopers, like you were going to say.
Yeah, all the clone troopers are CGI'd. Unlike in the original trilogy where it was extras in the armor. No, these are all CGI clones of what's his name? Jango Fett's actor, Tamura Morrison, I think his name is.
I think so. But you also have to remember that this is still 2004, 2003 by the time this movie comes out. So CGI is still a relatively strong suit.
But it's just a disappointing. It's just a disappointment to see human characters CGI'd.
Yeah,
especially with the armor.
You also have to think about budget-wise. It's probably going to cost them a lot less to use CGI than it would to
cast extras.
To cast a bunch of extras and pay them. So while I understand that they had CGI for it, I do wish that they probably did the extras as well. But
like at least for like the it's fine to CGI the clones that are like in the infantry moving forward, but like the characters that talk and were like the commanders talking to them, those should have been
at least played by the same actor.
I mean, they're all played by the same actor. It's just the armor is CG'd.
Oh,
the armor is all CGI. It's the actor in a green suit.
Oh, I see what you mean now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like it's not actual armor. It's a CG clone of just him in a green suit.
Well, damn! I wish they would have actually. Yeah,
they didn't make armor for this one. No.
Oh, then they should have had the budget for that.
They should have. Yeah.
That's ridiculous. But, I mean, aside from the clone troopers, everything else actually looks pretty well. I mean, obviously, like every movie...
Droids look much better.
The droids do look much better, but, I mean, obviously, like in the first movie, in every movie, you can tell when there's a green screen. But, I mean, not all the time.
One of those green screens actually did have kind of a good shot to it. Like, when Anakin was thinking about his mom and Padme was behind him, that shot of him standing, that was cool.
That was a very good shot. I enjoyed that shot very much. Actually, hello.
Yeah, it should be.
We have the little art thingy. It's
that one.
This is just a drawing, but this is the art. This is the shot.
Essentially,
that we were talking
it's the same shot. Yeah.
That was the shot that we were talking about, where it was actually a good shot when they did the shot. Got it. And so there were actually quite a good number of shots that were really good. Good number of shots that were really good. I'm sticking with that sentence. A lot of them were really good shots, and I wish they had a lot more. But, I mean, once again, you could tell there was a lot of green screen in this movie, like the other movie and a lot of other movies to come. And, again, it all focuses back on there's not very many real locations, if any at all, because you're inside a giant room.
A lot of episode 2 was inside, like, studios.
I was just, I was saying, a lot of the movies were in a giant studio, completely green or blue, and then they had like blocks standing for like the pillars or for the freaking house or whatever.
Yeah, like the Jedi Temple is honestly a huge disappointment for me because it looks beautiful, but God damn it, is it fake?
I wish it wasn't.
I know.
Ugh. So now that we got the visuals out of the way, the overall rating for this movie, it is much better than the first movie, everything else, to an extent. But because of the script, it's also really bad. So, me personally, I'd probably give this movie a C+.
See, it's really difficult for me, because I can deal with Phantom Menace. I can deal with that.
Can you?
I can. I can deal with it.
Do we need to rewatch the first one?
The thing with episode 2 was just the script for and the forced romance that really, really killed it for me.
Yeah, and I mean, I agree with that, which is, I mean, that's why I'm giving it a C+, because that itself was a huge buzzkill, and it was horrible. But if you think about the overall movie with the story that's going on, with Anakin's character development, especially through this movie, and just seeing him go, you start seeing him go evil.
His transformation has started.
Yeah, his transformation has started in this movie. So if you can look past the horrible love scene that's going on, which is only in certain parts, if you just focus on the rest of it, it's still not a bad movie.
Yeah. See, I'm going to give it another C-.
Another C-.
But it's for different reasons, because while episode 1, nothing happened and it was boring, and that's what got it the C-. For this one, it's the cringy dialogue. I can't stand that dialogue. Every time I put myself through a Star Wars marathon, I dread watching episode 2.
Okay, so think about this. Improve the dialogue, or we'll even do this. Count out all the scenes that Anakin and Padme are lovey-dovey with each other and all the cringiness. Cut all those out and focus on...
kind of
focus on like the real
give it
part
a
of
C.
the movie.
It's just a point above, yeah.
Yeah.
Mainly because the Obi-Wan stuff was really interesting for me, because Obi-Wan is one of my favorite characters.
He definitely, again, he had a bigger character development in this movie, and it wasn't like his character developing throughout the movie. It's his character that was redeveloped from the first movie that made him much better. So you give it a C, even with the cringy dialogue. I give it a C plus, so about a C. Yeah, that's about where we'll round it out to. So Star Wars: Attack of the Clones, we're giving this movie a C. Now we come to the better ones of the three.
Revenge of the Sith.
I don't care how many people say that the old ones are better and like this one wasn't that good. I went and saw this movie in 2007 in theaters the day it came out in Minnesota freaking years ago, 10 years ago. I love this movie.
This movie is actually really good.
I still love this movie. I don't care if there's a lot of whatever's going on. I love this movie. It's one of the better movies.
It is.
The story of this movie is the war is raging. They're in the Clone Wars now, and they have to fight General Grievous, who's this robot, human, mix, hybrid thing. You find out more about him if you watch the Clone Wars.
It's complicated.
Yeah, it's complicated. And he's captured Chancellor Palpatine, who, spoiler alert, has been revealed several times. He's the Sith Lord. He's the bad guy. He's the main baddie to all of this going on. He's the Lord Voldemort of Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the Lord Voldemort of Star Wars.
Not much to that.
So he's captured, they save him, and then this movie is what brings about Anakin's turn to Darth Vader and to the dark side, killing pretty much all the Jedi. And so I'm trying not to go too much in the spoilers. I'm trying to give you the brief.
I think it should be good because it's been
it's been 10 years.
Yeah,
but still people.
I usually do a general rule where if it's been 10 years, you're free to spoil.
Yeah, we're kind of already spoiling as we go through the thing. So I'm just trying to do a brief synopsis of everything going on. Chancellor Palpatine, Darth Sidious got captured. They freed him. Anakin trusts him more, finds out he's the Darth Lord, and then becomes Darth Vader, and everything goes to shit.
Yep.
The way that the story is portrayed throughout this movie is a million times better than the first movie and the second movie.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Because
when I first watched this, or no, not even when I watched this, I feel like I'm watching an actual Star Wars movie.
Yes, and it's because they had tons of time now to develop the story.
Right.
They've gotten something to stand on now. And this movie,
and it had a really strong opening too.
It had
that opening sequence that was really strong and really good.
And even though, kind of bouncing around this, even though it was CGI, you could tell it was CGI, but it was so much better CGI.
It's definitely. This was around the time when CGI was kind of becoming more realistic, like more photorealistic.
It was almost Valerian level CGI.
Yeah,
almost. Valerian still had a lot of CGI, but that was a horrible movie, and we don't talk about that movie other than the CGI for that movie.
Exactly.
But the story itself is definitely much more well-rounded, and it's definitely more focused and clear cut.
And they actually managed to make us feel a couple times.
Oh yeah, this movie, the story for this movie puts the other two movies in the shame. This movie was phenomenal when it came to the story and everything, especially the character development, which we're actually getting to. They brought all the original roles back: Ewan McGregor, Anakin, and Hayden Christensen as Anakin. Natalie Portman. I'm blanking. Sam Jackson, Christopher Lee for a moment.
Ian McDermott. Is that how you say his last name?
Ian McDermott. We're butchering your name, buddy. I'm sorry.
The guy who played Sidious.
Yeah. They all came back into this movie, and they definitely were. I felt that they were much stronger with their roles.
Oh yeah, definitely. And especially with Sidious with that opera scene.
Yeah.
Like that was a really strong moment.
Oh yes. And the characters in this movie, again, there was a lot of character development through every character in this movie, pretty much. Whether it's the clones, the other Jedi, Yoda, Anakin especially.
Actually, even Obi-Wan, he got especially better because they started kind of giving him one-liners, which normally that's not a good idea. But in this case, it was perfect. It fit him perfectly. His sarcasm was amazing, and because he was his attitude.
He was the kind of character who took things very seriously, but then he had those few moments of joking because he's Ewan McGregor. He had that right.
Exactly.
Now, Hayden Christensen was much better in this movie. He wasn't that pervy, pedophile-ish creep that was in episode 2.
He feels like a completely different character compared to
he pretty much is a completely different character. Because he's, at this point, if you think about it, he is, because at this point he's gone through the Clone Wars. He's come out a general, or...
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's, at a young age, he's this high-ranking officer, and also he's a Jedi Knight now in the Council.
Yeah.
So he's definitely matured.
No, I'd say he's matured. Like,
he still has his moments of being a whiny little bitch, but he's matured a lot more. But he definitely had probably the biggest character development, and especially as an actor, he portrayed the role much better as Anakin in this. You could definitely tell that he tried harder to be this character, and as the character development went to where he was turning to the dark side, you could definitely see his evolution of it, and you could see just how much he really wanted to put into this character.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure. And even at the last scene where him and Obi-Wan are fighting, you could sense just how much tension there is between them, and then when Obi-Wan comes out victorious, you could feel his emotion, because the lines that Ewan McGregor says in that scene particularly, you could just feel the sadness and the agony that's going into that.
Right, because like Obi-Wan and Anakin have been like the closest friends for like years, like brothers, and 10 probably 20-ish years. Yeah,
at this
like
point.
they're close enough to be brothers, and like when
he has to fight his brother,
it's
and
hard.
Kill him if he needs to,
and you can feel that tension when watching it.
Especially like right before the fight scene, you could tell, because there's that tension where he's just like, you could tell that he's just, I don't want to kill you, but you're forcing me to do something that I don't want to do.
Yeah, and even in like the fight choreography, you can tell like Obi-Wan's blocking and his attacks are very flustered, and he's not focusing because he doesn't want to fight, and he's just trying his best to find the best way out, but when in reality there is no way out.
Yeah. While we're talking about that fight, I do want to talk about the choreography for this fight, because it was you could definitely tell it was very well choreographed. Mm-hmm. Like, it was all choreographed very well, and you can tell, like, with some of the other movies, yes, they're all choreographed, obviously, but it's a little harder to tell. With this movie, it's very fast-paced.
Yeah.
So that kind of ruins it because of how fast-paced it is.
But honestly, I think it's better that way, because it actually makes you feel it's a fight. Because when you look back at the original movies, it's just two guys touching sticks. Really? Well, then.
Insert crude jokes here in the comics, in the comments. But yeah, but if you're trying to compare that, this probably won't make much. This probably doesn't really compare. But if you're trying to compare that fight to the fight with Darth Maul and Qui-Gon and that fight in particular doesn't really look too choreographed. Like, I mean, obviously it is, but like, there's a lot of stuff going on, so there's not much.
In that defense, though, Liam Neeson knows how to fight, and Ray Park is a stuntman. So, and majority of that fight was those two. So that was them improvising the fight.
Yeah. And that made sense. But when it comes to like the choreograph, like again in this movie, you could definitely tell it was choreographed. Mm-hmm. Which, I mean, there's nothing wrong with it to an extent, but you normally want to see a movie where like it's choreographed, but it flows so well that it isn't.
Right.
This movie, it seems like, at least towards the beginning of the fight, it seemed very choreographed. As the fight was going, there was a lot of stuff that like you really wouldn't think it was choreographed, but it was. Mm-hmm. But that's my opinion on the choreographing. The script itself was much stronger. It was much better. While there was still the few cringy lines from Anakin and Padme, it's not as bad, because at this time they're married. They're a couple. Yeah.
And like I said earlier, it felt like a Star Wars movie.
Yeah, it definitely did, because everything fits so well together at this point. They had the story down, and they had the script down to put it all together, and they had the characters down as well. So when they came out with that overall script, it was something that was pleasing to the watchers, to the viewers of this movie. And that's something that the other two Star Wars movies lacked and probably should have had a much better thing on.
Right.
I can't really think much more about the script other than it flowed so well. The dialogue flowed really well. The story itself with the script flowed very well. Everything just seemed perfectly tied together.
Mm-hmm. And it had its moments too. Like the couple of the moments where it actually made me kind of feel was like Order 66 when they were killing all the Jedi. That was like, damn.
I mean, there was one line in this movie for the script that was horrible, and that is the unlimited power. Come on, Ian. Come on, buddy. You know better than that.
Well, I mean,
shame on you.
To be fair, he kind of had that kind of crazy, goofy side in the original as well, or in Episode 6. It wasn't as bad here, but he still had that. It's part of his.
But he didn't have that unlimited power. He didn't have that shit going on in the other freaking
That's
Episode
true.
6.
Well, I mean, he had that weird scream when he was being tossed off.
Well, you're being tossed off of a fucking edge. What are you gonna do? Just sit there and look at your clock, being like, "When am I gonna land?"
Fair point.
Lawyered. Speaking of Ian, you could definitely. There was a scene where him and Mace Windu and a bunch of other Jedi are fighting because the Jedi found out that he's Darth Sidious, he's the Sith Lord, and so they have a little fight. They have a fight scene going on. There was a lot of moments where clearly you could tell that there was a stunt double for him, and he had no idea what the hell he was doing with the lightsaber.
Yeah.
And some of the faces he made during that fight scene, those were the cringiest parts of this movie.
Yeah.
The script itself, aside from the unlimited power thing, aside from that part, that scene was probably the cringiest thing ever.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't say you can just let it roll off, because that's a huge part of this movie, is the reveal of who the main bad guy is and trying to stop him.
And that's kind of my issue with these movies, is I respect them for recasting the original, well, not recasting, but casting back the original actor who played Sidious in episode 5 and 6. But with that comes an issue of, like, we already know who he is and we know he's the bad guy.
Plus, you can tell just in his voice. Like,
right.
Just by him speaking, you can already tell.
Do it.
He's the... Yeah, do it. He's the bad guy. I mean, that's just in episode 3. Even back in episode 1, when you see him in episode 1, just his normal speaking voice, you can already tell that he's talking like this.
Although in his, to respect him though, like, he does do a good job with his range on being Palpatine, Sidious, and then scarred Sidious. Because he kind of has that energy as, like, he's a politician. But then...
He is a single politic.
Yes.
He is something that he hires politicians to discuss about himself.
Yes, that's what he is. That's what a politic is. Pow! But no,
he's a politician.
He does a good job masking, not masking, but giving a different kind of personality as Palpatine. Then puts on a different persona as Sidious, which honestly, he does a good job doing that.
He does a good job, but again, I mean, while he does a good job at it, it's his voice, it's the voice of him himself that you can already tell that when he speaks, it's just natural that his voice sounds like that, and you just already can tell, oh, we already know who he is.
Yeah.
Now, we kind of went backwards, go back forwards. We already talked about the script. The script was very well done, aside from the unlimited power and the cringe of some things. The visuals in this movie definitely skyrocket everything. Well, I mean, there was still a lot of green screen moments. You could tell there was a lot of, like, it was all still in the studio.
Yeah.
It was much better, and it came out in 2007, so that was about the time where, obviously, visuals got a little bit better for games and movies and whatnot. Mm-hmm. But it was a much better thing to look at. It was much better to look at. It wasn't as cringeworthy, and it wasn't just a sore sight.
Right.
It was a much better sight. Everything looked much more crisp. Everything looked more realistic. Sorry, I'm looking over at my dog here. I don't even know what she's doing. It's just everything with the visuals seemed much crisper, cleaner, and more well thought out, I guess you could say.
And one thing I have to give to Lucas, like, goddamn, you did an amazing job thinking out that final fight between Obi-Wan and Anakin.
Yes, I was saying that how it seemed like a lot of the focus was on that fight in particular compared to like the rest of the movie to an extent. Like, the rest of the movie knew what it was doing to an extent. I say that a lot, but I don't care. That fight scene at the very end seemed like there was a lot of focus put on it and a lot of time spent.
Right, and Lucas even knew, he's like, there's a lot riding on this fight, and this is a big moment for both of these characters. It's a very
big moment for both of these characters. So the visuals for it were much better. They were...
Yeah. And a lot of people say that the fight's unrealistic, like when they're running up that lava tower. It doesn't matter.
I mean, let's be honest, it is unrealistic.
I mean, it is, yeah, it's unrealistic, but...
It's sci-fi.
It's sci-fi. It's a sci-fi fantasy. What do you want?
Nothing else is realistic in this movie. So, overall, though, this movie did much better than the other two. I think I'd probably give this movie a B.
I'd give it a B+, actually, to be honest.
I would love to give it a B+, but again, it's a B because there's still a bunch of moments where there is moments where the dialogue just seems cringy. There's some cringy moments, and there's just, to me, I think there's also a lot of scenes in this movie that were not necessary.
Yeah.
I mean, like, a lot. I mean, obviously, the other movies had a lot of scenes that were unnecessary. Literally, all of episode 1 was unnecessary. It was just a bunch of unnecessary scenes, except for the...
I mean, honestly, we talked about this. Episode 1 could have just been, like, either a mini-series or a comic.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Because, I'm in an unpopular opinion on this, but I actually liked the pod race because it added to the world building of Star Wars and the universe, because it kind of showed that not everything is all war. You can still have some conflict elsewhere.
Which, by the way, the pod race is all in one. It's all in one different, like one same shot kind of thing.
Yeah,
not like the same shot, but like
I mean, it was
in the same
shot
direction.
badly, but I still enjoyed the pod race. But they could have done that in like a miniseries or a comic, which would have done it, I think, more justice.
Yeah, but that's why I have to give this. That's why I have to give episode 3 a B. Me personally, because it was much stronger than the other movies, admittedly, but there was a lot of stuff in this movie that felt unnecessary, felt a bit cringy, and they could have done much better without.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree, but I'm still giving it a B+, just because, I don't know, I just feel it really embraces the fact that it's Star Wars again.
Yeah.
And that's what, I know.
So with him with a B+, me with a B, I mean, it still kind of rounds out to center, which can't really do center. B+. Overall, we're gonna give Star Wars: Revenge of the Sith a B.
Yeah. There's one thing I wanted to talk about first, because this was going back to what I was talking about in episode 2. How episode 1 was a shaky start.
Yes.
And then episode 2 went downhill.
Mm-hmm.
Star Wars episode 3 was the movie they wanted it to be from the beginning.
Yes.
So if episode 2 was better than it is now, I think people would see the prequels a bit more. Like they respect.
They would have more of a reason to see them.
Because right now the common opinion is everyone hates the prequels.
Yeah.
And
no surprise.
Right, and honestly, I blame episode 1 and 2 for that, because they could have redeemed episode 1 with episode 2, but they failed. Because they failed in episode 2. Episode 3 was the redeeming factor, but it was too late.
Yeah, by then it was too late. People were already kind of like, it's probably not going to be that good, but it was actually really good. So that's it for our first 3 Star Wars. First 3 in quotes again, because technically I'm not even going to get into that whole thing. So that's Star Wars episode. Yeah, Star Wars timeline. So that was it for our Star Wars episode 1 through 3. We're going to be doing episode 4 through 6 again, probably on a live stream. Not sure yet when that is. We're going to discuss that, obviously, but hopefully you guys can make it to watch it. Thank you all very much for joining us. Thank you for joining me,
of course,
as always. And thank you all for joining us on our first live stream on YouTube. I strongly appreciate it. I love all you guys, and as always, it's Pop Culture Critics signing off.
May the Force be with you all.
Nailed it.